Hey, real quick, before we start the show, there is a curse word in the credits. You've been warned. Let's get to the show.
You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Fonte with a scooping header.
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Отдача, Остин! Все-таки забил!
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. He ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone, and I am the host of the show. No matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you enjoyed the FA Cup weekend that was. Saints, of course, got through unscathed past a Huddersfield team that we drew with at the end of last season, but that is not the focus of this week's episode. This week's episode also takes a look at the FA Cup, but from a different perspective and a different team entirely. And this week I am lucky enough to be joined by two members of the Southampton Women's Football Club, Lauren Clark, a midfielder, and Erin Bloomfield, a striker, who joined me ahead of their clash with West Bromwich Albion's women's team on Sunday, which they got through. We didn't know that at the time when we spoke, but both Lauren and Erin played their part in a match. Erin got the breakthrough goal. She actually got a brace on the day, and it was enough to see the team through to the next round where they drew Crystal Palace Lady. So once again, that's another team from a couple of leagues above them that they will be hosting at Romsey Town FC. So you can go and watch the next round of the Cup on the 26th of January on that weekend. So stay tuned for announcements of that sort so you can go down and support the team. But before we get to any of that, just want to say special thanks to Lauren and to Erin for taking time out of their days to speak with me. We got to talk about a lot of things. We got to talk about their past and future kind of commitments in the United States, coming over and playing for a college team in the United States and what that's like. We look at their past careers in England, and we talk about the season that Southampton Women's Football Club is having currently. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk with members of the Southampton Women's Football Club, and I want to take a second to say thank you to Haley Newman, who is the media director at the Southampton Women's Football Club, for doing something to me that I think is so great, because she's who I talked to set up these interviews. And this week she did something very, very special. She gave me not only a Liverpool supporter, but also a Portsmouth supporter, and just brought them together for me to talk to, all on a podcast about Southampton. So thank you, Haley, who is also a Portsmouth supporter. I'm outing her now because she's done this to me. But anyway, besides the fact that Lauren and Erin support those awful teams, we are here talking about their performance, and luckily we don't have to talk about the other stuff too much. So anyway, thanks to Lauren and Erin and Haley for everything they've done. And if you are interested in sponsoring any of the players or the coaching staff or just the team in general, there are links in the show notes that will help you do that. Southampton Women's relies on sponsorships for the players and the coaching staff in order to make sure that the season and the team continues to exist. So please reach out to Amanda Burrows, the club secretary, if you are interested in that. Once again, there are links in the show notes below. But enough of that. Let's get to the chat, the interviews, and hopefully that you enjoy it. And as I said before, if you are available and around the area, please reach out and support the team on the 26th, on the weekend of the 26th, when they host Crystal Palace Ladies. That will be another big match and another tough test for them. So with all that said, let's get to the show. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you on the other side. I'd like to welcome to the Southampton Delivery Podcast two players from the Southampton Women's Football Club. We have Lauren Clark and Erin Bloomfield joining us this week. Ladies, welcome to the show, and thanks for giving me some time to come on and chat about you and the season and everything else in between.
Thank you.
No worries. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So I contacted Haley and she put you in touch. I don't know if you volunteered or were told or were voluntold what was going to happen, but I appreciate it. And we're going to walk through the season a little bit, walk through your careers as well. Just as you kind of kick off this part of the season after kind of getting rained out a bunch of times a little bit. And you have a big match coming up on Sunday, and this will come out after that. So hopefully we have a good result to look at or look back on there. But I just want to start just really kind of getting to know each of you. Lauren, we'll start with you. What was sport like growing up for you and your family? Was everybody kind of involved in sport, or did you have, was it just you, or how did you first get involved in maybe watching and playing sports growing up?
Yeah, so my dad's always been involved in playing and coaching football, so I kind of got into football that way, and my twin brother as well. So I kind of started playing with him for the boys' teams. And then as I got to about 11 years old, I joined a girls' team and started playing. And then my dad actually took over and was the manager. So I played under him for 7 years until I was 18. Really enjoyed that. Made some really good friends that I'm still in contact with now. And then I went out to America when I was 18 and got a scholarship. So yeah, it was a really good experience.
And where did you head in America when you came over?
Nebraska.
Okay. How did you find the weather in your time in Nebraska?
So when I first went out there, it was very, very hot. Wasn't really used to that. And our preseason trip was in Texas, South Padre. So it was very, very hot. Found it very difficult, I'm not going to lie. But preseason training every day, even twice a day, kind of got used to it. I didn't really have any choice.
Yeah.
But I loved it out there. Obviously really hot in the summer, but also really, really cold in the winter.
Yeah. Was it a bit of a culture shock for you coming from England, heading over and landing really smack dab in the middle of America?
Yeah, definitely.
And then Erin, what about you? What was your life like growing up in terms of playing sport? Were you always involved, or did you come to it late, or how did you get involved with it?
I started playing when I was around 9, actually. It came around I used to be friends with a lot of the boys in my class in primary school. I used to play on the playground, and one day one of the boys turned around to me and said that I should come join or give it a go at their local club. And I went down there, and the coaches were great. They'd never really had a girl footballer at such a young age join the club, so they welcomed me really well. I then stayed playing football in boys' teams until I was 16. And from there, I loved it then throughout the years in the boys' league. And then when I turned 16, I joined the Oval Academy, who were at that time in the Women's Super League. And a few weeks after joining them, I then joined their first team and played for them for a season and a half. And then that's how I ended up at Southampton.
Okay. All right. And I mean, this seems to be a pretty normal route is you wind up playing with the boys up until a certain age, and then you switch over to playing on an all girls side. But was that transition difficult for either of you, or did you find it to be just you're still playing the same game and it's the same thing? Now you're playing against all women instead?
For me personally, I found the boys league, even at under 16s, is really physical. You've got to be really quick on the ball and think tactically and technically be really good, because the boys at such a young age, physically they become so much bigger, and that's just a natural part of life. But that's why I think that playing in the boys league for 7 years really helped me transition into women's football a lot easier than it would have been if I'd just played women's football.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably helped in the long run playing with the boys. Like Erin said, physically they're a lot stronger and the games can be a little bit quicker. So moving into the women's game at the same age as Erin at 16 kind of helped us to be where we are now.
And it seems like a lot of players that have played for Southampton Women's have played for boys teams kind of growing up. Is that because there's a lack of all girls teams to play for, or what? I mean, do you have any idea why that is?
Around my area, when I was younger, there was only really one girls' team, and still then the league was quite short. There wasn't a lot of teams. I think that's changed a lot nowadays. Also, the fact that I was friends with a lot of the boys, so I didn't really look for girls' teams. But I think nowadays it's a lot more frequent that girls are joining all girls' teams a lot younger.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we were younger, there probably wasn't as many competitive teams to be a part of. So I think it's definitely changed now, and there are a lot more opportunities for the girls to play at a competitive level at a young age.
Lauren, I'm interested, when you came over to America, did you notice, was there a big difference between how the game is played here and in England versus, I mean, beyond just us calling it soccer and probably you have them making fun of you for calling it football a little bit, or I mean, was the game itself different? Because I know sometimes the collegiate rules are a bit different than some of the rules that are in England and stuff like that. Yeah,
definitely some of the rules were a bit different, like your overtime, like golden goal. Obviously, that's very different to how it is here. So that was a little bit to get used to. And the football-wise, I think it was a lot more athletic, and fitness was a huge factor in the game in America. Whereas in England, I feel it's a little bit more like technical and tactical. And I'm not saying that there's no technical or tactical aspect
sure.
in America, but a lot of the girls were very, very fit compared to girls here that might be technically stronger.
Yeah, I think that runs across sports here in America, and sometimes you see even players that play for the men's teams and MLS level and everything else. The America emphasizes the physicality and things like that. I think more so than some of the other places around the world, and that it's both it makes American football fun to watch, but it also maybe holds us back sometimes when you get into you need some of the technical skills that we don't develop maybe quite as much. But I think that's also starting to change a little bit. I know that we spend a lot more time now. Just when I watch the girls train at school, they are spending more time doing technical drills than they used to, where they used to just run a lot of sprints and lift a lot of weights and be able to just run, forever. So
no, it definitely helped my game because I'm training every day or twice a day throughout pre-season, kind of gets you prepared for the tough season ahead. And I think that was another thing I had to get used to was the seasons in America were a lot shorter. So we had 2 or 3 games a week, whereas now we have training twice a week and then a game on a Sunday. So yeah, kind of the impact of 3 games a week took a little bit getting used to as well.
Yeah, I think they just are putting something in place. They're trying to change that. They're trying to spread the season out now, but I know that's been a kind of a critique of the college game here because you play such a short season and because you have 2 or 3 matches a week, you don't have time to do all of the technical stuff. It's mostly just make sure you're fit enough to make it through the whole season. And so hopefully that works out a little bit. But I want to go back real quick to growing up. And Erin, when you were growing up, did your family all watch football, and did they support one particular team, or is your kind of family rivalry or family dynamic split amongst teams, or how did that work for you growing up?
Growing up, none of my family actually played football, but they were all big supporters, and we all support the same team, which is Liverpool.
Okay.
And yeah, we're pretty much a household of Liverpool supporters.
Okay. And did you grow up, I guess, up north, or did you grow up kind of down on the South Coast? Yeah, I grew up in the South. So that was good. Yeah. And Lauren, what about you?
Yeah, my family all supported the same team as well, so there was no rivalries in the family.
You don't support Portsmouth, do you?
Yeah, I didn't want to mention it.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I think I saw something on your Twitter feed, but that's all right. I know Haley does too, so it's fair enough. We don't have to talk about it that much. So I'm glad there was no rivalry in either of your households, because that can be a little it can get in the way. My family, my wife and I support one American baseball team, and my kids support another, and then the team that my wife and I support just has been found to be having cheated in the World Series a couple years ago against the team my kids support. So it hasn't been great. But we'll get over it eventually, or they will, because we're still champions. Yeah, so Erin, I guess congratulations to you on having the I guess the World Club Cup, or I think that's what it's called, and also the the Champions League. It's a big deal, and I'm sure you've seen many of the players pass through the South Coast and head on up there, and it was fun to watch them while they were here, and they're still fun to watch. I just don't like them quite as much. Anyway, it's fine.
It's been a good year.
Yeah, it has been. It's been. I keep waiting for Liverpool to slip up, just kind of hoping like somebody at least makes it interesting. But I can't be mad at you for supporting them. Do you have any idea like how your family became Liverpool supporters? Just out of curiosity.
I think it was really my dad. I think at the time when they had players such as Robbie Fowler, Ian Rush, and great players like that, Steven Gerrard coming through, and they were just known as one of the best teams in the world. That's when he was pretty much a glory supporter.
And then you had to follow them through all the years where they didn't win anything, and now you're coming back into it. So that's fine. And Lauren, I guess just for the team you support, I mean, how have you found it kind of with the team kind of, going through a period of struggling and I mean, just, I don't want to say the rivalry on the South Coast, but just all of everything that's gone on with the club. Like, how has it been to support the team through kind of maybe a downtime versus, when you were younger and they were, I guess, just more successful?
Yeah, there's been a lot of up and downs over the years, as I'm sure you as a Southampton fan has looked back at and probably laughed about. But yeah, it's tough, but obviously the fans owned the club for a while and kept the club going, and then got the new guy in that invested a lot of money and has kind of kept the club going. And last year had a good season and kind of unlucky at going up, but we'll see. You never know what happens with.
Yeah. I can tell you that when the teams played earlier this year, that was the most nervous I had ever been before Southampton played. I was a mess all day at work. I couldn't concentrate, and normally I'd be okay with, because the games kick off midday here, and I would normally be okay with seeing the score and going home and watching the game and knowing the score or whatever. But I just basically blocked everything all day. Didn't look at the internet. Basically ran home like a little kid after school. Like turned the match on as soon as I got home. Didn't say hi to my family. Just watched the match. And obviously a better result for us than you. But it was that was something I had looked forward to for so long, and that was the first one I've ever been able to watch. So. Anyway, I guess growing up, or even as an adult, do you have any moments as a fan that kind of stick out to you that you remember, whether it's club football or international football or the Women's World Cup or anything that sticks out in your mind as being like a kind of a pivotal moment in growing up around and watching football?
I think the 2012 Olympics for the Great Britain team really gave English football kind of a rise that it needed to prove to like fans that maybe only watch men's football that women's football is on the rise, and they have actually done a lot better than the men have over the years, but they don't get the publicity that maybe they deserve.
And Erin, what about you?
For me, it would probably be personally, I think one of the points where I was watching football, I went to watch Liverpool at Anfield. And it's unfortunately the only time I've got to see them, but I got to watch some of my favourite players play, and the way they played, I think it really inspired me to carry on. And this was at a time when people like Suarez was still at the club, and they beat Norwich 5-1, so that was a good day for me. But it showed me the kind of football that I want to play when I'm older.
And has it had an influence on as to how you approach the game?
Definitely. I think it showed that there was so many different kind of things that I didn't realise about football before I went and actually watched the match live. I think you can never really tell the atmosphere in a stadium unless you've been to one, and unless you've been to a big game like that. I think it inspired me and pushed me, because I want to play in stadiums like that when I was older. So I think that really motivated me to keep playing.
All right. We kind of talked briefly about how you arrived at Southampton. Lauren, as you came back from the States, how did you wind up at Southampton? Did you play all 4 years here in the States and then go back, or how did that work out?
So I played all 4 years out in the States. I actually had another year of eligibility because I tore my ACL out there. But I decided to return to England because I'd finished my degree. And then when I returned, I actually played for Watford for a season. And then the travelling got a little bit too much for me. So I turned back to trying to play local, and there was a lot more teams kind of available for me to play for. So then I had about a season out. I was just a little bit burnt out. I just started a new job and I actually didn't play football for a year. And then Erin Smith, the current manager of Southampton, actually got in contact with me, and he was the manager at Chichester at the time. And he asked me if I wanted to come along to pre-season and see what it was like. So I went and played for them for a season. So that was last season, played for them. And then Aaron moved to Southampton, so I decided to move to Southampton with him and a couple of other players from Chichester. So yeah, that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, and then Erin, what about you? Did you landed in the first team, but what was it? Did you also have a relationship with Erin before he was at Southampton, or how did you find your way to Southampton?
No, so I've recently joined this season. I joined a few months ago. It came around, I was playing for the Yeovil Ladies, and I decided that the best move for me would be to find another club in order for me to personally get the most out of my last season in England, because in August I'm also heading over to America. And so I was looking around, and I had a few other clubs contact me, and I spoke to a few of the managers, and then I spoke to Aaron and decided that I really liked his style of coaching, the way the girls trained, how seriously they took it, and how much they all wanted the same goals within the team. And then from there, I decided that Southampton was going to be the club that I'd like to join until the end of the season.
Okay. All right. And whereabouts in America are you headed?
Alabama.
Alabama. What is it? I mean, Nebraska and Alabama, that if I had to say hey, come to America, you probably wouldn't book a vacation to either of those places, right?
Not typically, no.
Nothing against those places, but like most people come to they go to Florida, they go to New York City, they go, they come to California. We send our high school sends a lot of girls to a very small college in the Midwest as well, and the kids come back and they're like, it was where we grew up is kind of or where I grew up is much different than what people are what you're going to witness there. But I mean, I guess I would just give you the warning. It's going to be very hot. It's going to be very humid. And American football is going to be a huge part of your. You're going to be just inundated with all of that. So I hope that you enjoy the experience, and I'm sure you will, and it'll be great. But what college are you headed to?
Troy.
Oh wow! Well, congratulations on getting into that. It's gonna be great.
Thank you.
So yeah, I assume you're excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. I visited there in the summer, along with a few other places I visited, and I loved Troy. It was great, and their facilities and just everything they had there. I really enjoyed the whole experience of being there. And
then because the schooling system is slightly different in England versus the United States, are you coming in as a freshman over here, or are you transferring in as a junior? No, I'm coming in as a freshman. All right, so 4 years of eligibility. And that would be great. It'd be a good time. And once again, I do not hate the South. So I'm sure I will get hate mail a little bit, but as somebody from California, and I'm an LSU fan as well. So they won't talk to me now. It's fine. So anyway, I guess you mentioned kind of the goals of the team and coming into Southampton. I guess both of you coming in this season. What's the welcome been like from the rest of the team, and and how clear was it that the team had a specific goal and that Erin had a vision for the team going forward?
I think coming in new at this team and Aaron coming in, he made it very clear on kind of what his goals were as a team, and that was to fight for promotion. Because Southampton have been very, very close for a number of years, and I think Aaron wanted to bring in players to join to the current players, bring them together to fight for promotion. And yeah, maybe so far hasn't gone as expected, or we've lost points which maybe we shouldn't have. We're still playing football how we want to, and I think that's all we can ask for as players and kind of our manager and coaches as well.
Definitely, I agree with what Lauren just said. We all know that we are fighting for promotion, and we still have the opportunity to be promoted, so we're all still working hard to reach that goal.
Yeah, and it is such a difficult thing because for some of the listeners that maybe haven't listened to past Southampton Women's episodes, it's you only get one team promoted out of the division, so it becomes extremely tough to do that, and you wind up really just I guess every match is so stressful, every goal is so stressful, and in the last couple of seasons, Southampton have been so close, and then kind of been denied. And hopefully, you guys are able to make that happen this season. You currently sit second in the table, and you mentioned drop points, but I mean, overall, I think that a lot of I think most of the season you guys have played really well, and maybe it's just, from my perspective sitting here, it's been one or two individual errors maybe. Or just a simple breakdown, or maybe just not being able to be clinical enough in front of goal. But what would you say has been the biggest kind of, I guess, what's been holding you back from getting all of those points each and every week, and taking nothing away from the opposition that you played, because I know that a lot of the opposition is extremely tough and extremely competitive. But what would you say would be the thing that maybe has been holding you guys back so far?
I don't think we can pinpoint directly one thing. I think it's probably a combination of things, maybe individual errors that have cost, say, a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and they've been clinical in front of goal, but also we create a lot of chances week in, week out, and I think it might come down to sometimes that we're not scoring, but it's all over the pitch. Like I said, I don't think we can pinpoint directly one thing. Just on the day, maybe it's just not been our day, and like you said, we're not going to take the credit away from this because there are some good teams in this league.
Yeah, and I didn't just want to clarify. I wasn't trying to put that on anybody at all.
No.
Yeah. It also seems like you guys are involved in multiple competitions. Like as I look through the schedule and the results, this seems to be 4 or 5 different kind of competitions that you've been involved in. Is that difficult to deal with since you're playing opposition from kind of all over the place? And, up until this season, I mean, look at the Premier League, they've played 21 matches. And you guys started about the same time and have only played 8 league matches. Does that get frustrating for you, or is it just kind of the way it goes and you just play the games and it doesn't matter the competition that it's in?
I think we just play the games. I think we don't really we obviously look and analyse the opposition that we're playing, and we set out our side to play against that team. But as a team, since I've been there, we don't fear the opposition or who they are or what league they're in. We always go out with the mindset that we can win any game we play as long as we play the way we know we can, and especially the way we play in training and what we've been working on. If we just listen to the coaches, we believe that we can go out there and win against any opposition that we're faced against.
So, I mean, we talked a little bit about team goals and things like that, but for you two, did you have kind of personal goals coming into the season? I know, Erin, you kind of mentioned that you're going to be going over to the United States, so you wanted to make sure you were ready for that. Was there anything else that you kind of set aside or set out that was going to be like something you wanted to make sure you'd accomplish this season, or do you do that going into each and every season?
I did this season personally. but this season's there's been a lot of unexpected changes. At the start of the season, I had no idea that I would be changing teams. So when I joined Southampton, I think my main goal was to really focus on my development and working within a team and getting a lot of minutes on the pitch, and when I went to Southampton, having the best possible impact and helping them with their goals as much as I could before I left for America. So although I had a lot of personal targets to, get back on the score sheet, get back in form and my fitness up again, but I was mainly focused on the team's goals of getting promoted.
And Lauren, what about you?
Yeah, mine are pretty similar to Erin as well. Knowing that Southampton have been pushing for promotion for a couple of years, that hopefully I could help them doing that. And even though we're sat second, I think we've still got a good chance of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the Southampton FC Women's is sitting there at the top of the table. And if there was, you neither of you were playing for the team a couple of seasons ago when they kind of, I want to say were created, but came about. And I know it upset some of the listeners of this show that kind of split the fan base in terms of some people already supported Southampton Women's, and then some people kind of started supporting the Saints team once they were there. And I know it's been a point of contention for some fans, but you've played them already this season, correct?
Yeah.
And I guess just to ask, is there a difference in the level of competition when you face them versus some of the other teams? Is it a definite rivalry since you are from the same city essentially? And I guess both of you not being Saints fans, maybe is there added spice to that contest?
I think there was definitely a rivalry during that game, just to being both from the south and both being Southampton. I think there was a rivalry, but I think it just came down to wanting to win the game and prove who was worthy of winning the league. And even though we came out as a draw, it was a very, very even game. And even though they're sat at the top of the table, some points, I think when we play them again in February, it'll be very interesting, because I think a lot has changed within both of the teams.
All right. I guess with both of you coming into the team and maybe having a result or two not go the way that you would have wanted, how have you found kind of the leadership of the team? You guys are at slightly different points in your career. One of you's come back from America, one of you is going. But how have you found kind of the structure that's been in place, whether it's been put there by Erin or by some of the other ladies who are already on the team? How have you found kind of the leadership and the structure of the team, and has it helped you, do you think, to this point in the season?
Well, for me, I think the leadership within the team, I don't think it is just with Erin, obviously, he's the manager, but there's people like Lauren Cheshire and Kelly who are the captains, and they take a lot of responsibility on and off the pitch as well. They're always there to help you if you need anything. They're always leading you, whether that be in training or in the match, and trying to guide you and help me, especially as a young player, improve. I've still got so much to learn within the game. But then Aaron, he's been a great help as well already since being here. He'll always be trying to improve you, and during training, whether that be pulling me aside and telling me, what I've done well, but what I need to improve on, and taking out just the 5 minutes to help me improve on that and help me understand how I can improve on it, has been really helpful. So again, the leadership, however, isn't just the captains as well. I think all the girls are really wanting to push each other and guide each other on and off the pitch.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Erin's just said. It's not just the manager and the coaches that obviously spend a lot of time of their own time planning sessions and making sure that everything's in place. It's also our captains, but also all the other girls on the pitch as well.
So with the season kind of underway and things like that, looking forward to the rest of the season, you have, I would think, just still over half your season left to go. You obviously have goals of wanting to achieve promotion and fight for that place. How important is, we have a cup competition coming up, and this will be out after the result is already there. But I mean, how important and how much of a focus are the cup competitions amongst the team as well? And I guess, sometimes we see teams that the FA Cup will be on this weekend across England, and that will be for both the men's and women's teams. And we'll likely see Southampton, for instance, rotate its players pretty heavily. How much rotation is there for a cup competition for you, or is it generally the same 11 or a similar 11 that go out and play each and every week because you only play one match a week typically?
The team kind of stays similar each week. There might be a couple of players that rotate in, but normally it's, like you said, we only play one game a week, so even though we have training, we still give our bodies enough time to recover and ready to play 90 minutes on Sunday.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the upcoming FA Cup match and for you, I mean, I grew up playing baseball, and for me, baseball players are notoriously kind of superstitious, and I was much the same way. But I guess we'll start with you, Lauren. What were kind of your, I guess do you have any match day kind of routines that you have to do, that you try to do each and every week before you play a typical Sunday match, or does it start on Saturday night? Because sometimes people have certain things they like to eat the night before or do the night before. But for you, like what's your kind of match day routine leading up to a Sunday match?
Yeah, so on Saturday evening, I always like to get my, not my kit, but my training stuff out that I wear to the game. I don't know why. I just like to get it out and fold it, so that when I get up, it's all ready, and I know that I've got everything there. And then Sunday morning, it's not normally something I always have for breakfast, but before I go to the game, I always make my tomato pasta, and I make sure that I eat that before my game. That's kind of the only rituals that I have.
And what about you, Erin?
I can't say I have a lot. I think I need to listen to good music before the match. That is something I always got to do. I have a match day playlist that I always listen to. And apart from that, I can't say I have many, actually. No, I don't think I have any except from that.
See, I always had everything has to be kind of just right, and it got really bad at one point where it was like if everything wasn't just right, like I would just be like, oh, today's ruined, and that's not great.
Yeah.
And my brother's the exact opposite. My brother could wake up, 5 minutes before we were supposed to be somewhere, and look terrible, feel terrible, whatever, and show up and play better than me. And that was always really frustrating as somebody who put in a lot of time training, and my brother didn't always do that. And not to say that he didn't train at all, but we're very, very different. So I understand.
Yeah.
The not routine thing. I couldn't do it. I still, even now, I get my games are typically they start at 9 a.m. on a Saturday, so it's like just after the Premier League games are over, like we're down there and going, and I have to have the same routine. And if there's ever, sometimes there's 12 minutes of extra time or whatever, and it's just like today is ruined because now my whole routine is off, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You mentioned music. Now, when you're on your way to the match, do you keep that music on? And what about if you're with, sometimes for the away matches, I know this year you guys are traveling together, or trying to as much as possible. But what happens to the playlist then? Are you in charge of the playlist for the whole team, or do you have some influence over whoever does, or how does that work?
So on the way there in the bus, I'll pretty much have my headphones on. Not all the time, obviously, but just before we get there, or a few minutes before, I'll put my headphones on and listen to some of my music. And then when we get there, I tend to take over the speaker in the changing room a lot.
Yeah,
not to the whole team's excitement, but yeah, I find it funny, and I put on some good music for the team to listen to.
That was probably the first thing you done when you joined the team.
Yeah, I think we'll show them some good music.
You're like, look, I'm here. Also listen to this.
It's what you've been waiting for.
Yeah. What's on the playlist?
Oh, I can't reveal all my secrets, but there's a bit of Kanye West on there. It's all different genres, really. I don't have a bit of the same. I mix it up.
All right.
A bit of rudimental.
Okay. Well, so far I know I at least can identify the artist you're speaking of. I do like Kanye West. I like both of those, actually. I think that's good. My wife and I disagree on music a lot. And she was trying to have me help her put together a playlist for a work Christmas party. And I was like, you don't want me to help you because it's not going to go well. And I did manage to squeeze a few songs on there that it's not good part. It's not great party music. Like my brother and I really enjoyed it, but it'll basically have everybody else just get off the dance floor, which is not what you want. So, I guess Lauren, would you say there's any some of the music choices? Would you agree with all of them, or would you say that some of them are maybe a little questionable?
I mean, some of them may be questionable, but I can't think of specific songs off the top of my head. But I think it's more so in our home changing room. The speaker is directly behind where I'm sat, so and I don't really have any choice to move it. So I think it's probably more the volume rather than the actual song choice.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, very little you can do about that. And I guess for people who are just kind of thinking about the team or trying to imagine kind of what it's like how long before a match do you typically arrive as a team, and then kind of what's the timeline in terms of leading up to kickoff for each of you? You're both outfield players, so you don't have any kind of special weird goalkeeping training you have to do, but what's the timeline on a match day for you guys once you arrive at the field?
So Erin likes us to arrive to the ground for a 2:00 kickoff at about 12:15. He likes us to put our bags in the changing room while they're setting up the kit, and he likes us to go out onto the pitch to see what it's like, so we can pick what boots are appropriate for that game. And then normally at 12:30, team presentation that we do each week. And then after the presentation, we go into the changing rooms. We normally have till about 1:05 to get ourselves changed, and that's where we put the music on and try and get ourselves pumped up. And then 1:05 we go out ready for the warm up.
All right. So I mean, you are heading into the FA Cup this weekend, and I imagine that you look at the opposition as much as you can, but it's probably slightly more difficult given the training schedule and things like that. But how much will you and kind of typically adapt your game to the teams you're playing, or is the kind of the philosophy of the team to go out and kind of just establish your style of play on the opposition and force them to kind of adapt to you, or what's that typically like for the team?
I think we always take into consideration the other team. I think we like to know especially maybe their stronger players. No team we play really has any weak players. They're all talented women playing, but we definitely take into consideration their strengths and maybe see where in that team that we would like to target or maybe try to exploit in their team. But I think mainly we try to focus on our game and where we would really like to excel at in that game, really, whether that be through the wings, whether that be through the middle of the pitch. It could change depending on each game. But so yeah, I guess we do take into consideration the other team, but mainly our focus is on playing our best game and being the best team that we can possibly, because when we play at our best, there's nothing more we can do than that.
I just want to briefly look forward, past the end of this season and just kind of say, like, as you get ready to head off to America, I mean, have you two talked about that since one of you has gone and one of you is going? Has there been any kind of exchange of ideas or things to look for or things to be aware of between the two of you?
We haven't really talked about it that much, actually. When I first joined Southampton, Lauren did mention that she'd been out to America, and she said she enjoyed her time out there. And obviously, I think most people do. I think you can never really tell whether you're personally going to enjoy it or love it or hate it until you're out there. But no, we haven't actually talked about it that much, but I'm sure we will do soon at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lauren, if I had to ask you, what was your favorite part about coming out to the United States, and what do you remember most fondly about the time, and maybe something aside from football related?
I think just the main experience of heading out to America and the unknown. I'd never even been out to America for holidays, so when I was actually moving out there, it was a huge deal, and kind of just the whole experience and having the opportunity to travel while doing something that I love was just amazing.
And then what was maybe something that you weren't aware of before you arrived, but you just said, like, this is, I could do without this particular aspect of all of this?
I didn't actually go out to America to visit where I was heading in Nebraska, so I think I'd seen pictures, but when I actually arrived there, it was a little bit different than what I expected. Not saying that was the bad.
Sure.
But yeah, it was just not knowing really, and as you mentioned earlier, like the culture change and stuff like that. But everyone was so friendly and really welcoming me well.
Yeah. It would be a culture shock for me to go to Nebraska. And so I can only imagine what it would be like coming from a different country and landing there. And we have a lot of kids that come. We have foreign exchange students that sometimes come here, and I live in a small town, and it's on the coast, but it's definitely not a beach town. And they come here and they go like, well, I want palm trees. I want Hollywood. And it's like, well, drive 3 hours, you can get there. But were you in or around a big city when you were there in Nebraska, or was the university you were at kind of in a smaller location?
Yeah, we was like an hour from Lincoln.
Okay.
So I was in Bellevue, but yeah, it was about an hour from Lincoln, so, which was quite a big city.
Yeah. And what was your experience, I guess, just staying in Lincoln, like with American football or American basketball or anything like that? Like, was there another sport that you became more involved with just watching, maybe, or during your time that you were out here?
I think definitely a lot of the sports that were available. Obviously, baseball and basketball. Baseball definitely, and obviously American football was great to go and watch. I went to a lot of the games more locally, so for my university, watching kind of people that I knew, rather than kind of the professional teams.
Yeah. And Erin, you mentioned that you visited. What was your kind of your first impression upon visiting the location itself that you'll be kind of stationed in? Because I imagine the weather will be quite different from what you're used to. But what else was kind of jumped out at you as you arrived and took a tour?
Yeah, it was definitely very humid there, but I think just probably the size of the campus. I think you can never really get a full perspective of how big or small it's going to be, and I've never really experienced anything like that in England. The size of the stadiums, the facilities that they have for college students was just incredible. I think it's almost the same as what they have for a lot of pro teams over here. The size of the facilities, everything was pretty much bigger, whether that be the classrooms or the dorm halls. But that I really enjoyed that personally, and that's something that I really look forward to. And also just
everything in America is bigger.
Yeah, definitely. It really is, and even down to the cars. Just that everything was bigger, and it was just taken so seriously out there. The sports and even the girls that I spoke to from the team, they took it so seriously, which I really admired from them. And that's what I kind of been going out there for, to obviously improve myself as a player and enjoy the 4 years. But yeah, the biggest difference was probably the size and how seriously they took it at a college level.
And I guess just to round this off a little bit, Lauren, you've been out here. If you were, I guess, going to give one piece of advice to somebody who was potentially going to come out to America, or somebody who wishes to play at that level, what would your experience kind of lend you to tell them, I guess, to better prepare them for what they're getting into?
I think it would be just be open-minded and be prepared for a great experience and take any opportunities that you possibly can, because they're huge out in America, and I'm sure anyone would have a great time.
And then Erin, I mean, I find it kind of interesting that somebody from England would come to America to play football. Like that doesn't seem, quite the thing. But I also think that in America, the collegiate sports offers you something maybe that maybe it isn't that step in England for some players to take. So, and I know that a lot of players come here to the United States to play, especially at a collegiate level, and it's a big commitment. But I mean, for somebody who was looking at you and looking at your career and your kind of trajectory and stuff like that, like, what, I guess, how did the scouting portion of that happen? How did you wind up going to Troy? Like, how did that even happen as somebody who's playing in England? And I guess was there anything that people should watch out for in terms of people trying to get you to commit to places, or what's your experience told you?
So how I first got into it was from being a young girl. I've always said I wanted to go to America and wanted to live in America, but never really took it that seriously. And then one day I saw this thing online from my kind of agency that they set up, giving girls a chance to go to America and get scholarships. So I decided to, go give it a look, and I went to one of their trial days and spoke to the team there. And I was really interested with it. And the process is long. I'm sure Lauren knows, picking a college to go to. It can be tiring, but it's a really enjoyable experience. But there'll be colleges coming at you from all angles, but not all of them are going to be right, and you've got to decide where you want to be in the country. If you want a big or small college, there's a lot of things to consider, as you would probably imagine when deciding to move away for 4 years. But for me personally, how I did it was I spoke to everyone that I could possibly speak to, whether if they were interested in me college-wise, and then I looked at the college for my own research and weighed up the pros and cons of each college, even down to things like how the coaches spoke to me and whether I could see myself fitting in that environment. I kind of rallied down to three colleges, and I visited all three in the summer. One was in North Carolina, one was in Texas, and one was obviously Troy. And after coming back and reflecting on all three colleges, Troy stood out for me, and I loved the team there, and I loved the way that they bonded, and the coaches, and how seriously they wanted to improve and push their players. So that's why I chose that. But it is a long process, but it's definitely been worth it for me.
And then Lauren, I guess just one more thing, like, you choosing the college you chose, did you go through some of the same kind of decision making that Erin went through, or what kind of, I guess, what drove you to choose the place that you attended? And I'm sorry, I never asked you exactly what university that was.
I went to Bellevue University, so it was actually a small college. And I kind of narrowed it down to some of the same things that Erin talked about. So the size of the school, kind of what the ethos was of the coaching team there. And I actually chose Bellevue because there was a lot of other international students there. So I thought, even though I was moving away from home, there would have been a lot of other young people in the same situation as I was.
Well, ladies, I just want to say thank you to both of you for taking the time to come on the show, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that as you move forward in the season, that it continues to go well for both of you. And Lauren, I hope that you continue to play, and Erin, I hope that you continue to progress and that you enjoy your time in America. And I think sometimes we get women's collegiate sports on TV here, so I'll look for Troy over the next couple of years and root you on as you're there. But I always like to say before we get away is just give you a chance to thank your sponsor or to talk a little bit about your sponsor, because your sponsors to play for Southampton Women's, it requires most people need a sponsor to be able to do that because there is a cost associated with it. And I know the team and the club are always looking for additional sponsors. So if people want to sponsor a player or the team, they can look in the show notes below. The links are there to do that. But Lauren, who is your sponsor? And then kind of just, I guess it's two people, right?
Yeah, so it's Rob and Chloe Kerr. They come to a lot of our games. They supported me last year when I was at Chichester. And continue to do that this season. So without them, I probably wouldn't be able to play. So can't thank them enough for their continued support.
Okay, and then Erin, yours is a company.
Yeah.
Is there a website or anything that people should visit if they're interested, or who is it?
So it's One of a Kind Custom Design, and it's run by two ladies called Michelle and Emma. And they personally don't know me very well, but they've then supported me because they've seen me for my football, and they know me through Yeovil and have seen me play there, and they decided that they'd like to help support me at Southampton and continue my progression there, really.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks to them, and just a reminder to everybody, if you're interested in and are able to sponsor a player or the team, to do that, because the team is always looking for sponsorships. And but all of your games are at Romsey Town FC, so the home matches are there, and I wish you the best of luck going into this weekend, and I hope success in the future, and hopefully you've enjoyed this, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again at some point in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
That does it for this episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Haley Newman for the epic piece of shithousery that she has inserted into my life, for giving me both a Liverpool and Portsmouth supporter all in one episode. I don't know what you started, but it's definitely something, and I'm here for it. So thanks a lot. But the real thanks goes out to Lauren Clark and Erin Bloomfield for taking time out of their evenings, aside from their work schedules and their training schedules and their matches, to talk with me about their careers, about their times in the U.S., about their season that they're having at the Southampton Women's Football Club, which you can be a part of if you go to the website and look at their schedule and show up and support them when they play their matches, or you can sponsor one of the players or one of the coaches, because they rely on that in order to keep this thing going. They are one of the longest serving teams in the Southampton area. They're not this new upstart thing that may also be happening in and around Southampton, but we won't talk about that now. If you're interested in sponsoring a player, get in touch with the club secretary, Amanda Burrows. Her email is in the show notes, and she can get you all the information you need to sponsor a player. There's also links to the schedule, so you can go support them whenever they are in town. As always, this show would not be possible without your support, so thank you for listening. It also relies on a couple of other people. Matt Beeling, who does the logo for the show. You can find him at We Are Southampton on Instagram. Lots and lots of good graphics coming from him. Also, our partner page is the Southampton page. You can go there for all of your Southampton FC news and needs. You can find him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Lots of good content coming out all week long. So between the podcast on Tuesdays and the newsletter on Fridays, you can look to that page to stay up to date with everything else that is going on at the club. You can find this show on iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on social media. We're at SFCDELL_IVERY on both Twitter and Instagram. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/SFC Delivery. There's no underscore in the Facebook address. The easiest way to do that and subscribe to the show is just to visit southamptondelivery.com. There you'll find links to all of the various audio platforms where the show can be heard. All music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you listen to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week after we visit Leicester City. Hopefully we have something else better to talk about. I'm not going to say it because we already know what the score was last time. So thanks for listening. I appreciate it. And until next time, remember that together we march on. It also seems there's the dog. I hate the dog. I hate him a lot. He does that. Oh my God. All right. Sorry.